The most important kind of freedom is to be what you really are. You trade in your reality for a role. You trade in your sense for an act. You give up your ability to feel, and in exchange, put on a mask. There can't be any large-scale revolution until there is a personal revolution on an individual level. It's got to happen inside first. These were the famous words of America's famous songwriter and poet, Jim Morrison. And so, once upon a time, Bob was a star. No one knew how big a star he would be one day before his film released. On the day after his film released, he was a sensation. In a matter of 2 days, he went from a nobody to the heartthrob of the country. Such was the goddess of glamour. She took you to dizzying heights if she fell in love with you. In Bob's case, she was clearly head over heels. Me? I was just a writer. I had written the film that had catapulted Bob to the top of the heap. The success of the film did not change my destiny like it did his. But I was happy for Bob. He had been my friend through my infinite struggles. And I knew he deserved his place in the sun. It wasn't easy anymore doing things we did when he was a nobody. Now everywhere we went, he was surrounded by people and inundated with attention. No more quiet beers and long walks with Depeche Mode on the stereo. Those days were over. Yet I was excited for him and his new life. It was late afternoon when Bob drove up to my house in his new swanky car and asked me to accompany him to the opening of an art exhibition. He had no desire to go, but he was committed, and it wasn't like I was doing anything much in any case. So I hopped into the comfort of the 0 to 80 in 3 seconds kind of sports car. "I need a cigarette, real bad," he whispered into my ear. In the middle of the attention, the paparazzi and the invitees to the exhibition were showering on him. Sure. I was going to fish out one from my pocket when he stopped me and said it had to be in the men's room where no one could see him smoke. I put the cigarette back into my pocket and planned a men's room smoking opportunity for him. "Why the secret cigarette rendezvous?" I asked when we were alone in the loo. He looked at me like I was his village cousin. "I am a star now, Joe," he explained, taking pains to speak slower. "I must have an image. I want people to see me as this role model, as this good guy. I want all mothers to ask their kids to be like me. I want to be a role model." "Why not just be yourself and let the mothers figure out what they want for their children?" I asked him with all earnestness. He laughed and shook his head like I would not understand. Perhaps I did not. Years went by. Bob and I lost touch. I did write some more successful films, but never really hit anything out of the park. Bob, in the meanwhile, just grew from strength to strength. He did become Mr. Nice Guy, like he had planned for himself. I don't really know if the mothers were talking to their kids to be like him, but if they were, I wouldn't be surprised. Then one day, a creaky cupboard opened up somewhere, and a skeleton came tumbling out. Bob's female assistant filed a police complaint against him for repeated sexual harassment. The media went berserk. Mr. Nice Guy, a molester. The news was too good to be true. Once the creaky cupboard opens, there is really no stopping it. Stories of other women came out accusing Bob of similar behavior. Then the reports of some rehabilitation program for drug addiction, drunken driving. It was just like a free-for-all. Late one night, I got a call from him. "I need to see you, Joe. I need a friend." He surely needed one. I drove up to his place. I found Bob sprawled drunk on the expensive marble floor of his extravagant house. He smiled at me and asked me to come and sprawl next to him. I did. "I have figured something about life, Joe. I want to share it with you," he said, his words slurring through it all. I nodded, all ears. "Remember the cigarette in the loo, the day I began my Mr. Nice Guy journey?" I nodded, remembering it only too well. "You know what happened that day? Another me was born." I nodded again. Then he tried to stand up and failed. Fell back on the marble and with some effort began to talk again. "When I gave birth to a new me, I really gave birth to another me. The older me never really went away. He was always around, mocking at the new one. I was being this, but I really wanted to be that. And you know what happens when you are two people, Joe? Somewhere, the two people meet and conspire to become a third person. That third person does everything that the first guy always did, but the second guy, the nice guy, makes the third guy do all these things deviously. When what you always were meets what you're pretending to be, a third guy is born, Joe. And this third guy takes all your innocent wants and turns them into perverse and devious actions. He's very dangerous, this third guy. Very, very dangerous. Half an hour later, Bob was dead. I had no idea that he had stuffed himself on a drug cocktail. 3 days later, when they lowered him into his grave, I thought back to what he had said. When what you always were meets what you're pretending to be, a third guy is born, Joe. He was right. I had to get home. I had to write again. I had to tell the world what Bob had found out about life, about this third guy.